Thank you for staying with us. Time now for the news review. We're getting into the major stories in the newspapers this morning. We're joined by political scientist and director for the Center for European Studies, Dr. Kwame Asante, who joins the conversation. And Doc, a very good morning to you if you can hear me. All right, we'll get to Dr. Kwame Asante shortly. He has been with us. But let's start with the Daily Graphic newspaper. Agbogbloshie redevelopment scheme ready, and a proposed redevelopment scheme has been developed for the land on which the demolished Agbogbloshie market in Accra was situated. You remember? I was there reporting when the onion sellers and others were moved. Intended to give the area a facelift, the scheme is yet to be submitted to the seat of government, that is the Jubilee House, for further suggestions, inputs and approval. In the meantime, there was a contractor on site erecting a fence to secure the land. While awaiting approval from the Jubilee House, the contractor, who had already gone through the Public Procurement Authority, has started digging the foundation for the fence wall. Throwing light on the proposed redevelopment, the Greater Accra Regional Minister Henry Quartey told the Daily Graphic that the overall plan was to bring immense life to the area. And so there are pictures here of what the redeveloped site would look like. There's also CBI Ghana building world's largest calcined clay cement plant. And interesting, two stories on page 13 that I'll just be taking a look at. Publishers conniving to print textbooks offshore. That's the Printers Association crying out. And the economic challenges could affect the MPP's chances. That's according to the Economist Intelligence Unit. Let's turn to page 13 for those stories very quickly. So publishers conniving to print textbooks offshore. You know, we've been talking about the fact that local publishers should be given a chunk, if not all of some publishing rights when it comes to government publications and all of that. There are so many things that have been discussed when it comes to the publishing of textbooks for pupils and students. Well, here's an interesting twist. The Ghana Printers and Paper Converters Association has raised a red flag over attempts by some publishers in connivance with local printers to source the printing of government textbooks to printers outside the country. The association says there is evidence that some foreign printers are already in the country contacting publishers and printers with juicy packages to take up the printing of the books in their countries. In an interview with the Daily Graphic yesterday, the executive director of the GPPCA, William Turkson, reiterated the need for government to step up its control mechanisms to ensure that publishers contracted to get the textbooks printed locally did not sneak out of the country to execute the job. So you see the circumstances, and we know, I mean, in China, in India, in other parts of the world, a lot of people right here in Ghana, whether they're writing fiction, non-fiction, textbooks, other works, they reach out to these people. It is cheaper owing to the market controls in a place like China, owing to the low cost of labor, for example. But we're also trying to do this for specific reasons to boost our own publishing industry. Yet some of the very people who are involved, who are going to benefit, are seeking juicier deals from publishers elsewhere. It sort of smacks of what we see when it comes to cocoa and even gold. And that is why in some years you would see that India can say we've exported X amount of gold from Ghana. Dubai, the United Arab Emirates, would say we've exported or we've imported so much gold from Ghana. Yet Ghana's total gold export would not even match up to what one country claims it imported from our country. So very interesting times. Smuggling is real. And in this instance, we're having even the publishing of books being smuggled in a way. And it would be disastrous if government is not able to clamp down on this situation to ensure that the right things are done. Else, at the end, we would have lost big time and the goal will not be achieved, just as with many policies that we've rolled out in this country. The other story bodes on politics. Economic challenges could affect the MPP's chances. And we've heard from both sides, the MPP and the NDC. We'll discourse on this today. But here's the interesting picture that is painted. Public dissatisfaction with economic challenges the slow pace of development, and the tackling of corruption are likely to inhibit the chances of the governing New Patriotic Party winning the 2024 presidential election, the London-based Economist Intelligence Unit has predicted. Now, the EIU has, therefore, predicted that the opposition National Democratic Congress stands a reasonable chance of winning the 2024 elections. Stands a reasonable chance of winning the 2024 elections due to the quest of the electorate to seek change in the face of the challenges. The report, however, said it expected the NDC to come out with a fresh candidate other than former President John Dramani Mahama to revitalize its prospects. Let me just focus on those points as I usher in political scientist Dr. Kwame Asa-Asante. Doc, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Great.
Good morning.
Good morning. How's your Wednesday going so far?
Very perfect. I'm cool and very energetic.
We thank God for life. Right. So let's start with this big issue. I'm sure you followed the EIU and what it's been saying. Just to break down what it said, just to reiterate. It says there is public dissatisfaction with the economic management, economic challenges that we are seeing, the slow pace of development, and the poor tackling of corruption. For which reason, the fortunes of the MPP come election 2024 are going to be affected, are going to be impacted. And for which reason, again, it says the NDC stands a reasonable chance of winning the 2024 elections. However, it feels the NDC must jettison John Dramani Mahama in order to revitalize its prospects. How do you find all of this? Because this EIU has got it wrong in the past. It has also got it right in the past. How do you analyze all of this?
Yes, a very interesting study or report that has been released, but it gives us food for thought.
Right.
One is that, look, it is telling the government that, look, all is not well. They need to get their acts together and then deal with certain basics that influence the choice of voters, particularly the economy. You need to fix it because one of the variables that determine voter choices, tradition, political parties, that the economy, first and foremost, when they are making political choices.
Right.
The next issue that they talk about is issue of infrastructure development, which the Constitution makes it abundantly clear. And this is the second is issue of corruption, which if you look at the time Nana Akufo-Addo entered compared to that of John Mahama, Mahama started 2013, Nana Akufo-Addo 2017. Mahama left 2016, Nana finished the first tenure in 2020. If you look at the Transparency International report, it gives you an idea that the NDC managed corruption far better than the MPP. All these things are factors that influence voter choices. So it tells you that the government needs to up its game, work very hard, otherwise they are going to have their fingers bent. It also gives you, apart from that, it gives you an indication that if NDC is able to work very hard, they are going to be crowned, victorious in the election that is about to come in 2 years' time. That aspect which suggests that, look, John Mahama needs to be changed if the NDC want to maintain power is a very interesting one, in the sense that who gave John Mahama dog chance in the last election? But look at the votes that he pulled. He virtually won the election. So for me, if you look at that, just oppose it on factors such as reports that some of us have seen within the NDC cycles, some of the studies that we have chanced upon. There is nobody within NDC who can compete with John Mahama and win. That would be a miracle. But that is, to be fair to the party, and Mahama himself has not said that he's going to contest, so let's wait and see. But it tells you that these type of study must be taken, and political parties must take them in their strides, right, as a critical pointer to guide them in the conduct. That is not to say that you have, the report favors you, so you have won, and that you can can fold your arms and then sit down without doing anything. That will be a difficult thing to do, and it will not inure to the benefit of any party that takes that decision.
So Doc,
also it tells you that parties must work very well, very hard if they want to maintain power. For instance, the MPP. This is not a time to, engage in rancor, bickering within the party and jostling for position. It's a time to work and support the government if they really want to break the eight. Otherwise, they are likely to break the eight in the negative manner.
Very quickly on this point. Now, you say that considering the times, the NDC would have fared better in terms of managing the economy than the MPP. But we had at the helm of affairs someone who was vilified, John Dramani Mahama. Do you feel, you say that basically right now he is the front runner without much opposition in the NDC as far as the flag bearership position is concerned. But the EIU says that the best chance of the NDC is if they jettison Mahama. What do you think about that? Should he put himself forward since he's not fully declared it? Do you think it would impact the chances of the NDC?
I think that aspect of the report is a very controversial one because
controversial.
Very controversial because if you look closely to the NDC and their reports and their stages and all that, there's no doubt in my mind that Mahama is the front runner. There is nobody who can really compete in this. Let us remember that politics is a contest of ideas and referendum of your work. Which work would that candidate stand on to compete or to canvass for vote? You need works like Rawlings, that of Professor Mills, and then Mahama himself. And if he, the creator of all the things that you are going to compete with, using those resources, and he is the one competing, then I'm afraid you are not likely to win the election. Apart from that, if you go to the rank and file, they hold Mahama dear to their hearts. And that, for me, I have no doubt in my mind that when election is conducted today within the NDC, he will crown victorious.
Let's quickly look at this story, and I'm just taking the headline. Ensure every boat has life jackets. Agbogbloshie Jekli urges boat owners. That's the paramount chief of the Bator traditional area who has entreated members of the Boat Owners Association to ensure that every commercial boat has enough life jackets on board. We heard of that unfortunate incident in recent times where some people lost their lives, quite a number of them. And I feel this is only, fair. This is only right. It's so interesting that we have a lot of boats operating canoes and others without any life jackets across our country. There are portions of the country where you must necessarily cross water bodies. No life jackets and all of that. And people keep dying. What a country. What a country we're in.
Very sad, because this is not the first time we are hearing such a gory tale of some of these accidents. And the state seems to be very incapable of dealing with the problem. It's very, very unfortunate. We also acknowledge the fact that there have been efforts to deal with some of the linking problems, such as the stamps that you have in the water and all that.
Right.
But if you look at what is happening now, then you realize that more efforts need to be added to this process so that make traveling on water and the sea and all those rivers very safe for our people. Authorities and up their game if they really in them.
This is a very sad development, and since you're a lecturer, you're an academic, I just thought I would rope it in. Lecturer in court for slashing son with machete. It's too early in the morning. What I'm looking at right now is making my stomach churn. If you look at what I believe is the left arm of this boy, it is just tragic. 14-year-old. Now, a lecturer at the School of Hygiene, Samson Kwe Agbogbloshie, who allegedly slashed his 14-year-old son repeatedly with a machete and left him to his fate, was arraigned before court last Thursday. I see at least 3 slashes here, and they are deep. Oh, my word. The plea of Agbogbloshie, 41, who is charged with causing unlawful harm and the use of an offensive weapon, was not taken when he appeared at the Ho District Court 2. Now, what are the facts? Inspector Rejoice Kassa told the court, presided over by Mr. Yao Akosa Ejariampong, Amwapong, that the accused carried out the act on the child as punishment for a wrongdoing in school. So to summarize, the child supposedly smeared sanitizer on someone's face. You know what children do. He was prevented from sitting his exams. On the back of that, his father was infuriated and slashed him. I mean, how is that any logical, justifiable punishment? Doc, this breaks my heart. You should look at page 26 of the Daily Graphic. It's heartbreaking.
Very sad story. We don't want to know and hear this because, look, this is a difficult story. But the good news is that the case is at the proper form where it will be dealt with appropriately. So let's wait for the court to decide that we can also come in and run the necessary commentary, right? But it's a sad story that I'm hearing today. Yes.
Let's do landlords, tenants face prosecution for failing to clean frontage. That we're on the Ghanaian Times newspaper now. Foodstuff prices escalate on markets, and this is becoming a very dire situation. That's on page 16. Tricky AFCON 2023 draw for Black Stars, and Costa Rica VIP UNFPA head arrive in Ghana for Diaspora Forum. All of those stories there. But when you look at the Tricky AFCON 2023 draw for the Black Stars, you would see quite some information. Ghana's Black Stars have been handed a Tricky AFCON 2023 qualifying Group E. Let me just give you a fair idea of what to expect. There's Ghana, there's Angola, perennial troublemakers, Madagascar, and the Central African Republic. Those are the teams we're going to be facing in the qualifiers. The Daily Guide newspaper now. Minority files injunction against E-levy. Let's take a quick swipe at that, Doc. Interesting, because the E-levy was supposed to take off on May the 1st. Now, this is going to be looked at by the Apex Court on May the 4th, 3 days after the E-levy should have taken off. And when you look at what they are looking at, the procedures, the processes that culminated in the passage of the bill into law, what do you foresee and how problematic could this be for government in terms of running our economy?
Yeah, please, if you can take the question again, there was a disturbance from my phone. So
right.
if I missed the tail end of your question, yeah.
Right, so I'm saying how problematic do you feel this could be now that the E-levy is going to be constrained, so to speak, until the 4th, when we'll find out whether the Apex Court will allow it to go through or whether the injunction will be imposed?
NDC has filed that in court. We are waiting for, I think on the 4th, for the court to hear this. You know my position. Let us be patient. Let's wait. The court will make a determination and we'll follow. I always want to respect the position of the law when it comes to such issues so that we can have an elaborate discussion. So let us wait. The court will deal with that and then we'll come in.
But what do you think could be the repercussions if the court says due process wasn't followed? We're supposed to have implemented this at the tail end of last year. It didn't happen. January this year, didn't happen. We're in May. If May doesn't happen, I mean, it could be that they could go through the right processes moving on. But how do you feel this could impact us? Remember, we're looking at 6.9 billion. We've dropped it to between 4.4 to 5 billion. I mean, it could just mean disaster, couldn't it?
We are looking at it from various perspectives, but I think we can still be patient. Let the court decide, and then we can come in. Because for what maybe we have in mind that it will go this direction, it may have a different direction, and that our analysis will be thrown overboard. So I want to urge that we keep our cool and wait for the court.
Here's an interesting bit, Doc, in the Daily Guide newspaper, to wrap with that paper. Russia replies Ghana on agric claims. This is very interesting because in recent times we've heard the likes of Suleiman Abrahima, executive director for the Media Foundation for West Africa, accuse the Ministry of Food and Agriculture that the minister has been churning out a lot of false information. Well, listen to this. The Russian government, through its embassy in Ghana, has responded to claims that its actions in Ukraine are to be blamed for the current agriculture challenges. The Russian embassy in a post on its Twitter handle, raised concerns over the tagging of the country as responsible for the negative trends in agriculture markets, gloomy prospects in terms of access to food, and huge losses to farmers. It said the current hardship in the agricultural space is not a result of happenings within the last 2 months, but due to a steady trend of happenings on the global stage in the last 2 years, and in Ghana specifically. Any reactions?
Yes, it is very interesting that Media Foundation is taking the minister on. That is the way to go. Because you see, as a public figure, you owe it a duty to give us unbiased, proper information so that it will be part of the process of governance.
Right.
Why is it that we are getting something that is different from what is this? What is more is what the Russian embassy has come out with. That, look, all that you are blaming the country for is not the case, because there are other factors that has contributed to this problem that we have on hand. I believe that the minister will take note of this and then make sure that he is able to feed us with what information that is right and proper. It is part of the good governance agenda that whatever you give it to us must be what? Completely truthful. And then you don't need to hide anything from us. Transparency is the word if you want to govern with the principle of good governance.
On the other hand, interestingly, the Finder newspaper, as it reports, World Bank cuts growth forecast to 3.2%, citing Russia-Ukraine war, COVID-19 surge in China. Interesting times. There's also over 7,181 ex-convicts returned to prison in 5 years, over 1,000 cases recorded each year. Let's look at the Daily Dispatch quickly. There's full EIU 2022 political report on Ghana, and NDC will implode if they lose 2024. That is according to an analyst. We'll be bringing up these in the course of our big stories. The Publisher newspaper, Ursula Owusu takes ICT mentorship to Bono East. Farmers worried over lack of fertilizer as suppliers chase minister for pay. And there's also 3 NDC MPs want a Supreme Court to stop E-levy's implementation. Republic Press, NDC MPs run to Supreme Court to block E-levy. And there's that story as well. Don't blame us for global economic crisis. Russian embassy in Ghana. To wrap the conversation, going to IMF will benefit economy. That's according to the EIU. Maybe that'll be the final bit I put to you, Doc. Going to IMF will benefit the economy. We've vacillated. There's been a ping pong between go to the IMF, do the E-levy, or have a merger of both E-levy and the IMF. The EIU in this latest study also says the best way for Ghana is to go the way of the IMF. Your take as we wrap.
It's an interesting aspect of the conversation because government has consistently said that it will not go to the IMF,
right,
even before the E-levy was passed. Now that it's passed, I believe that government will still stuck to its guns and then go ahead with this program. All that we want to see that government, after everything, will manage the economic fortunes of this country to make life better for our people. It is not just mere saying it, but doing it is a critical component which government must not lose sight of.
Doc, it's always great catching up with you on a Wednesday morning. Thank you so much for your time, and I wish you the very best of the day and the week.
I'm grateful, and I wish you a good day.
Right. And that is the director for the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana, Dr. Kwame Asasanti, who joined me. Coming up next, we have sports. We're going to be talking about our tricky Group E for the AFCON qualifiers. And of course, my Manchester United bowed yesterday to Liverpool. All of that up next in sports.